If every game for Liverpool is a must-win, which you can understand that logic, why did he go with the team he went with tonight?
Well, he said that was a choice I made. That was a team I picked. It was the wrong team. Make no mistake. I mean, I said
even
before,
with Villa, Real Madrid, City.
You picked a team today. No, look, when you looked at them, I see you asked me the question before, and I said, well, you've made it really difficult for yourself tonight picking that team. You've not helped the young players in there because the team and the players in and around them. He made 10 changes from the weekend against Brentford. Like you can't tell me that he's picked that team today and those subs thinking that will get me a result against a really good Crystal Palace side. You might hope you can. But I didn't believe for 1 second they could beat him. And he's made a mistake today. But you know what? He's been unbelievable since he's come to the club. They're under this is real pressure for everybody concerned. But that's football. That's the price on the ticket. They climbed the mountain last year. They did something absolutely sensational. Now they've got to go back to that character they showed last year to when they won the title and stick together and get some results. Because there's not just... When you ask what's going on with Liverpool, there's so many things. It's not just the defence, it's not just the midfield, it's not just full. It's everything right now. And they've got to show some character. They've got really tough games ahead. But I think today, and I haven't said it very often about Arne Slot because I think he's been sensational, but today was a big mistake. You can't tell me that team was ever going to be capable of beating a really strong Crystal Palace side.
Does it add to the noise? Does it add to the pressure, as Ben asked him? Or, as Arne Slot kind of said, is the pressure at such a level already that it couldn't have gone much further, whatever happened tonight?
No, it gets a lot louder after tonight.
Even
with
the team?
They were well beaten, Mark. Well beaten. At home, on a run that they're on. I think the team selection actually probably adds more volume and more noise, because for me, when you've been in a team that's really struggled, and we spoke about it before the game, that's when you want your leaders. That's when, again, if it's me in that changing room, I want to play tonight. You know, let me go out. And I know people are going to say, you know, fatigue and the games are adding up. And there are certain games that you need to just get out there and try and get a result. And I don't think he's actually done a good enough job of trying to turn down that noise at times and maybe just stop the rot. You know, Chelsea, get back in the game, just take a point. You end up going to lose that. Manchester United, get back in the game, take a point. It almost feels it is all or nothing every game. And then that just spirals and it rumbles on, and then the pressure gets too big to handle, which clearly, you know, not having any of the boys on the bench was my big worry, not just the starting team.
So last season at this same stage, they went to Brighton and knocked Brighton out. He kind of mixed and matched his starting 11 for that game. Tyler Morton, for example, started at Brighton last season, but his bench was a lot stronger. You know, he was able to bring Núñez on or Salah on.
That's the big thing as well. When you look at, and he might, if they get a couple of great results, and they beat Aston Villa and Manchester and Real Madrid, he'll turn around and say that was the right decision. You know, he'll say, well, you know, I got it right. But I felt today, and I listened to Arne Slot, and I loved last year. I couldn't. Honesty is a great thing. Really good to be honest. Come out and talk about how the team's doing. But I think right now, you know, talking about we can't play against a team who play a low block against us. We can't defend against set pieces. That will transmit to the players that you are then giving them a massive out. And I think that doesn't really, for me, is not a great idea right now. You know, if you want to say that to the players, but when you're coming out so publicly and saying these things, even there, talking about every 2 days, you're a successful club. You won the league last year. That's the price on the ticket. Look at Chelsea. They had to go and play up until, I don't know, at the Club World Cup. They've got it really difficult, and they've got a load of injuries. But I think for Arne right now, there's lots of sort of negative chat that's coming out, and I don't want to hear that too much. The fans don't want to hear it. People that have gone to that game, paid a load of money to go and watch that team, and seeing after the 10 changes, that's not ideal either. So I think it's been a really bad day for him, but he's got to quickly get it right, get everybody going. Big characters are going to be needed for the weekend against Aston Villa, who had a brilliant result against Man City. But Joby's spot on. They've got to get going really quickly.
And also a lot of heat is going to be on him. He is the manager, but the players have to step up as well. And what he's done tonight is said, right, I'm going to rest the big hitters, well, pretty much everybody. And now what you then have to go and do as a player is you've got to go and deliver, and you've got to help him out a little bit. He's under pressure.
Don't let me down.
Exactly. And I think that's where you're hoping to get a little bit back from those players that you've left out tonight, you know, in the next 2-3 games, because they definitely need something just to turn that tide.
Liverpool have lost more games than any other side in Europe's top 5 leagues. I mean, the bad stats, they just keep on coming, don't they? Nigel, you said coming into the game, they almost need this from a mentality standpoint, not necessarily this competition. How damning is this for them now?
Very damning. It's going to be even worse for Arne Slot. And I said he's probably put more attention to himself in what he's done with his team selection and what he said. And for Liverpool fans, they want to see their club win. Yes, you want to bring the youngsters through. They've got some youngsters in the squad already who've had some minutes in the Premier League. But it's about winning now. It's about creating a culture. When you're in a football club and you go on a bad run, it's one of the worst places to go. Yes, you know you're blessed to be a professional football player, but the criticism that comes from ex-players, TV, the newspapers, the local fans, the fans that you bump into, oh, you lot are crap. Like, you got to deal with that. You want to win as quickly as possible. Regardless of what game or what competition it is, you want to win. Winning puts you on a high, and it just changes the atmosphere tremendously in a football club. When you go into training grounds after you lose games and you continue to lose it, it's a horrible place to be in. You don't want to be there because everyone's down. But when you win, everyone's happy, everyone's having a laugh and a joke. How's the family? And it's just a nice atmosphere. Right now, the clouds are very dark at Liverpool. And when you come off a performance like that, and then you also talk about the youngsters that were put in a situation, Nalo who gets sent off, coming in as a centre-back, it's one of the hardest things to do. If you're making attacking changes, it's fine. They can make mistakes up there, it's no problem. When you put in that responsibility in young kids and they get sent off in a situation like this and they're losing a game, it's only going to make the atmosphere there even worse and be very difficult for these youngsters to see any positivity or any light.
Do you think the more they spiral, Grella, as well, the harder it is for them to get out of it?
Yeah, I think so. 2 clean sheets in 15 games, probably you start there, right? Anytime I think a manager's struggling, you have to look at how we're conceding goals and where we're conceding goals. I came in today, I wrote on my notepad here, lazy tracking from the midfield. That's also from the first 11, right, where they have big problems as well. We keep talking about the changes, but they've struggled coming into this. They struggled a little bit last season in some regards as well. Some of us here were saying, they're good, but they're not the best team in the world for sure. And
Bro,
now,
when they were winning games, the writing was on the wall.
The writing was on the wall. And now you just see the tracking from Endo in the midfield. You don't want it to become a habit where guys are just not doing the fundamentals right? Where guys are not tracking guys from the midfield, where guys are not sliding over when they need to slide over, when guys are not competing in some of these different moments, making poor decisions. I do fear for Nalo because that play will replay in his head a million times tonight and for the next week.
He got sent off on his debut.
No, but forget about
his full debut, and now he gets another opportunity to get sent off again.
But this was the trampoline touch first. Like, they had the possession of the football. It's not like, okay, the ball goes over your head, you're a little late, and you grab somebody. This is like you had the ball, and you trampoline touch it to the other team, and then you take the guy down. It's a nightmare for the young player.
Let's take the youngsters out of it, because we know so about what they said. For me, the worry for Liverpool is the senior players. Kirk has started today. We questioned about how they would set up. You see Andy Robertson going to like a centre-back role. Kirk has been getting criticism for his performance at Liverpool since he's gone there. And again today, I look at the first goal. I think he's got to take responsibility. So even if you're Arne Slot, you put a few of your senior players out there and you're still seeing these mistakes, how are you going to correct that? Because when you look at the response we give to your senior players, Kirk has for tracking Sarr for the first goal. He gave the ball away high up in the pitch. Doesn't really see the danger. That's the big, more worrying concern. When your senior players are not reacting, seeing the danger. If it's the young players making mistakes, no problem. Youngsters, big night, making their debut, you can take that. But when your senior players are still making the same mistakes, when you're given an opportunity to get things right, to do the basics right, and they're not doing the basics right, that is when the alarm bells continue to go. Because how are you going to go from this type of performance? And if you start Kirkes again against, I believe, Aston Villa next, that's going to be a worry.
Nige, you said it best during the broadcast. I think we're going to learn more about Arne Slot in these moments than whenever it was that he was winning. You talked about that first goal. How many times have Liverpool, maybe this team that's a mix of young guys and the starters versus the teams throughout the season, have been getting done by these long balls? Look at the game against Manchester United. It's a long ball over the top. The spacing isn't right. The communication between Van Dijk and Konate, oftentimes, almost uncharacteristically this season, Liverpool are so vulnerable. And sure, offensively, they have all the firepower, but defensively, they're struggling. Chiesa said against Brentford at the weekend, they sat in silence in the dressing room. It seems like they don't have a response. And this was today, I felt like it was a moment to control the narrative a little bit more, because it is spiraling, like you say, Poppy. And this loss could be anecdotal by the season's end. I think Liverpool have bigger fish to fry than the Carabao Cup. But the aura that you surround yourself with, 6 losses from 7 games, going into not only this weekend against Villa, you have Real Madrid in Champions League coming up next week.
And then Manchester City after that. I mean, if Chiesa sat there and said, we sat in silence after the last Premier League loss, what do you think they're doing in the changing room now, Grella, with all these youngsters in the mix as well?
No, I think I think Slot and the group is going to try to write this off as, hey, we made 10 changes to the Carabao Cup, no big deal. But they didn't want to lose 3-0. I think if they would have lost like 2-1 and had a decent performance, it would have been like, okay, no problem. They went with changes. They didn't place emphasis on this competition. But the 3-0 at home with the red card and everything looks really bad. So I think they'll try to.
Do you think with those changes, by the way, that Slot was happy to go out of the competition and thought we don't have the depth, we don't have the momentum to compete on all fronts right now?
I think the timing is probably wrong. I don't think he'll be happy to go out of it. I think that sometimes it's not that you lose football matches, it's how you lose it. And today they lost and they didn't lose it in a great way. And the worrying thing I would say from me, looking at it from a manager's or coach's perspective, forget the youngsters, I'll be looking at my senior players because they're the ones that are more likely playing Premier League games. How did they perform? How did they react? I continue to see the same mistakes that they've been doing, and I don't see any positivity from this Liverpool squad. The one player who can only come out of any kind of praise so far is Szoboszlai. From the start of the season to how he's been performing. Obviously, he didn't perform today. But I look at McAllister in there. I look at Andy Robertson coming in there. You look at Kirkes again. You look at Gomez. These are the players he has to go to for Premier League fixtures to get that right. And for me, it's hard to say that they really put in a performance today where you can even say that the youngsters can look up to that. That is the worrying factor because they still ain't at that level where they need to be. And how you're going to go from this performance to a Premier League game against Aston Villa, you're going to be competing against for maybe that top 4 finish, and go all of a sudden one step forward in a positive manner. I think also competition's a big thing inside a club like Liverpool, right? These guys, even the best guys in the world, need to look over their shoulder and say, hey, if I don't perform, then Ikitika is a perfect example with Isak. He's performing, so he's going to play. So the competition is very important. So when you play these guys that don't maybe normally play every week in and week out, and to have this result, that also sends a message in the group like, oh, okay, well, our job's safe. It's fine. No problem. We have no one coming up from behind us. So the club is like an ecosystem. It has to be firing on all cylinders to compete in 4 competitions. Right now at Liverpool, it's clearly not.
Tough times for Liverpool as it stands right now, and not an opponent they are enjoying coming up against this season in Crystal Palace, conceding first in 7 consecutive games in all competitions for Liverpool. 0 clean sheets in the last 10 games in all competitions. It means Palace have now won 3 consecutive games against Liverpool in all competitions. And for Sarr, that's 5 goals in his last 4 games against Liverpool in all competitions. Don Hutchison's here now, and he is a real soothsayer because when they went 2-0 down, he said he pretty much predicted this on Twitter. You're so smart, Don.
I'll tell you what. Every time that he gets something right, he reminds us of it. Good Lord.
Don, what's going on?
Do you know what, Kay? I think even the staunchest Liverpool fan can't be angry tonight because the group of young players got sent out there. And I really felt for that group of players. I've made my debut for Liverpool in this competition. And the one thing you want when you're a younger player, 2 or 3 younger players playing, you want experienced players around you. That team had no chance of beating Crystal Palace tonight. Even Crystal Palace brought some of their first team players onto the pitch in the second half. It was one-way traffic from minute 1. I felt for Nalo, who got sent off. He made his Champions League debut, got sent off. He made his debut in the Carabao Cup tonight, got sent off. But it really was a rookie error from Arne Slot. I have to say, Kay, when you look across the board tonight, and you look at Newcastle, and you look at Spurs, and you look at Arsenal, and you look at Man City, and you look at Crystal Palace, they all played sides with probably 4 or 5 first-team players in it, or at least 3 or 4, 5 first-team players on the bench. Newcastle tonight brought Bruno Guimaraes on, they brought Joe Linton on, they brought Anthony Gordon on. Arsenal brought Bukayo Saka on, they brought Gabriel on, they brought Declan Rice on. Those kids that started the game tonight, it was even younger on the bench. There was no first-team players to be seen on the bench. Don? So what chance?
Like, what's he telling us by doing that? Because you're at Anfield, you need to turn the game around, and your team selection, when it comes to the bench as well, how is he going to do that?
It was awful. It was awful, Kay. Now on social media, a few guys came back at me and said, well, you know, Don, Liverpool have got 3 games in a week. They've got Aston Villa, they've got Real Madrid, they've got Man City. Newcastle have got 3 games in a week. Man City have got 3 games in a week. All the teams that are playing in the Champions Leagues have got 3 games this week. So I've got no idea. I couldn't get a handle on why he put that amount of youngsters in the starting 11, but the bench was just even younger. It made no sense whatsoever. As I said, when you're a young player, Kay, trying to make your way into Liverpool's first team to try and catch the eye, you want experienced players around you. They had 0 chance of winning that. So Liverpool fans will come away from that being so frustrated at Arne Slot because he has to take the blame. You know, it's not the young kid's fault. Arne Slot put that 11 together and put the bench together. So it's totally down to him tonight. So Liverpool fans will come away from it thinking no blame on the youngsters. Tried their best. It was too much for them against a good Crystal Palace side who deserved their win. I think Ali was saying there 3-0, all of it. Could have been a lot more. Could have been 4 or 5. But Arne Slot's got some big questions to answer tonight.
Liverpool's Carabao Cup dream came to a crashing end after a shocking 3-0 defeat to Crystal Palace at Anfield, one of the club's heaviest home cup losses in decades. Manager Arne Slot's decision to rotate heavily backfired as he fielded a team packed with youngsters and fringe players. With an average age barely over 20, the Reds looked overwhelmed from the start. Crystal Palace took full advantage. Ismaïla Sarr tore Liverpool apart, scoring twice in the first half before Yeremy Pino added a third late on. Palace were sharper, stronger, and far more composed. Meanwhile, Liverpool's defense was in chaos, and a red card for 18-year-old debutant Amara Nallo only deepened the misery. The defeat raises serious questions about Slot's tactics and timing. While resting key players made sense ahead of tough league fixtures, his gamble cost Liverpool a real chance at silverware. The young Reds were taught a harsh lesson in top-level football, and fans were left stunned by a performance that exposed the team's fragility and lack of leadership. Anfield fell silent, and for Liverpool, the night ended not just in defeat, but in a wake-up call.